Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. We've all seen it on TV, the sterile lab, the glowing screen, the magical certainty of a forensic match. Shows like CS. I have convinced us that science in the courtroom is an infallible oracle, unerringly pointing to the guilty. This is the CSI effect, a cultural belief that every crime scene holds a perfect clue. But what if the science itself fails? The reality of forensic science is far more complex, limited, and distressingly human. Forensic failures aren't just occasional mistakes. They are a deep-seated problem of contamination, flawed techniques, and cognitive bias that can cause investigations to stall, let the guilty walk free, and tragically, convict the innocent. This is the science of unsolvable cases, where the very evidence meant to illuminate the truth instead leads to a dead end. Let's step into the shadows of the crime lab and explore the critical failures and inherent limitations that define modern justice. For over a century, the justice system has leaned heavily on what's called pattern and impression evidence. This includes fingerprints, ballistics, and bite marks. For years, experts in these fields testified with absolute, unwavering certainty. But a wave of new research and high-profile errors has shown that many of these disciplines rest on subjective judgment, not objective proof. Let's start with the supposed gold standard, fingerprint analysis. The idea is powerful and simple. Everyone's friction ridge patterns are unique. When a print is lifted from a crime scene, an examiner compares its features, like ridge endings and bifurcations, to a suspect's prints. The problem is, crime scene prints are rarely perfect. They're often partial, smudged, distorted, or overlapping. The final declaration of a match isn't an objective process. It's an act of human judgment. There is no universal standard for how many points of similarity are needed to be certain. The 2004 Madrid train bombings brought this issue into the global spotlight. The FBI's most experienced fingerprint experts unanimously matched a print found on a bag of detonators to Brandon Mayfield, an attorney in Oregon. It was a done deal. But then, Spanish authorities matched the exact same print to an Algerian national. The FBI had to admit its error, a shocking revelation for the forensic community. The Mayfield case proved that even the best examiners are vulnerable to cognitive bias, where knowing about a suspect can unconsciously influence what you see. But if fingerprints have cracks in their foundation, bite mark analysis is a house built on quicksand. This field was based on two totally unproven assumptions: that everyone's dental pattern is unique, and that human skin can reliably record that uniqueness. For decades, forensic odontologists claimed they could definitively match a bite mark on a victim to a specific suspect. Scientific scrutiny has since demolished these assumptions. Skin is an elastic, variable surface. It swells, bruises, and changes shape, making any impression left on it completely unreliable for identification. The American Board of Forensic Odontology itself has admitted there is no scientific basis for declaring a definitive match. The tragic cases of Levon Brooks and Kennedy Brewer in Mississippi show the human cost. Both were convicted of murder in separate cases based almost entirely on the testimony of a single forensic odontologist who claimed their teeth matched bite marks on the victims. Both men spent years in prison before DNA testing not only exonerated them, but also identified the actual killer in both crimes. Bite mark evidence has contributed to numerous wrongful convictions and is now widely condemned as junk science. Then there's ballistics. When a gun is fired, it leaves microscopic scratches or striations on the bullet and cartridge case. The theory is that these marks are unique and can be traced back to a specific weapon. While this can be a valuable tool, it faces the same challenge as fingerprint analysis: subjectivity. The comparison of these tiny scratches relies on an examiner's personal experience and judgment. There's no comprehensive data to establish the statistical probability of a random match. So when an expert says the marks are sufficiently similar, that's an opinion, not a scientific fact. This has led to serious concerns that experts often overstate their certainty in court. Now let's move to biological evidence. The discovery of DNA profiling was a genuine revolution, offering a level of accuracy pattern matching could only dream of. It is the gold standard for a reason. But even this powerful tool is not immune to failure. The integrity of a DNA result is only as good as the integrity of the sample. Contamination is a huge risk. DNA is everywhere. A stray hair, a sneeze, or an investigator mishandling evidence can transfer an innocent person's DNA to a crime scene. In the high-profile Amanda Knox case, a key part of the defense was that investigators mishandled evidence, leading to DNA contamination that undermined the prosecution's findings. A poorly secured crime scene can become a chaotic soup of DNA from first responders, witnesses, and other uninvolved individuals, making it impossible to isolate the relevant profiles. Technology has also given us touch DNA, which allows scientists to generate a profile from just a few skin cells left on an object. This is incredibly powerful, but it comes with a massive risk. We all shed DNA constantly, creating an invisible DNA shadow. This means it's possible to find someone's DNA on an object they never touched, simply transferred there by another person or object. This raises profound questions about what a DNA match really means when it could come from completely innocent incidental contact. Furthermore, crime scenes often yield DNA from multiple people, creating a complex mixture. Interpreting these mixtures is one of the biggest challenges in forensics today. Different analysts, using different statistical models and subjective judgments, can look at the same complex mixture and arrive at completely different conclusions. One expert might say a suspect is a contributor, while another excludes them entirely. And what about trace evidence, like hairs and fibers? For decades, microscopic hair comparison was a forensic staple. An examiner would look at a hair from a crime scene and a hair from a suspect under a microscope and declare it a match. But in 2015, the FBI made a stunning admission. A review of thousands of cases involving hair analysis revealed that its examiners had provided flawed or exaggerated testimony in over 90% of trials. The problem is that a visual comparison can never, ever link a hair to a single person. It can only suggest it came from someone with a similar hair type. Yet for years, experts testified with a certainty the science could not support, casting doubt on countless convictions. Beyond the techniques themselves, some of the most pervasive failures are rooted in the human mind. Forensic scientists are susceptible to the same unconscious biases as the rest of us. Confirmation bias is the tendency to look for information that confirms what you already believe. If an examiner is told the police have a strong suspect, they might be unconsciously driven to find a match, overlooking data that points elsewhere. To combat this, experts recommend blinding protocols, where an analyst compares samples without any extra information about the case. For example, a fingerprint expert would compare two prints without being told which one is from the crime scene and which is from the suspect. There are also systemic failures. Many public crime labs are chronically underfunded and overwhelmed, leading to rushed work and mistakes. There's a lack of enforced national standards, meaning the quality of forensic work can vary wildly from one city to the next. And often, crime labs operate as an arm of law enforcement, creating a culture focused on getting convictions rather than on neutral scientific inquiry. All of these failures, flawed techniques, human error, and contaminated evidence converge to create unsolvable cases. The 1996 murder of 6-year-old JonBenét Ramsey is a textbook example. In the critical first hours, the crime scene was completely compromised. Friends and family roamed the house, cleaning surfaces and moving things. JonBenét's father moved her body upon finding it, further disturbing the scene. The forensic evidence that was collected was ultimately ambiguous. Unidentified DNA was found on her clothing, but it has never been matched, and its origin is unknown. It could be from the killer or innocent contact. The Zodiac Killer, who terrorized Northern California in the late 1960s, created a mystery that became unsolvable due to the limitations of the era's technology. The killer left partial fingerprints that have never been matched. He licked stamps on letters he sent to the police, leaving behind DNA. But the technology to analyze it didn't exist, and the samples have since degraded. And in the infamous 1947 Black Dahlia murder in Los Angeles, the killer deliberately destroyed the evidence. The victim, Elizabeth Short, had her body drained of blood and wiped clean. With no reliable physical evidence, no DNA, no definitive prints, the case went cold and became a dark legend. The revelation of these widespread failures has been a painful but necessary reckoning. In 2009, the National Academy of Sciences published a bombshell report. It found that, with the exception of nuclear DNA, no other forensic method had been rigorously proven to consistently and with a high degree of certainty connect evidence to a specific person. It called out bite mark and hair analysis as scientifically unsupported. This report, along with a follow-up in 2016, became a blueprint for reform. The response is slowly transforming the field. There is a major push to make pattern matching more objective, using algorithms to provide statistical probabilities instead of relying on an examiner's opinion. Organizations like the Innocence Project have used post-conviction DNA testing to exonerate hundreds of wrongfully convicted people, creating an invaluable database that shows exactly where the science went wrong. Their work has proven that flawed forensic science is a leading cause of wrongful convictions. The science of solving crimes is not the slick, certain process we see on television. It is a human endeavor, subject to bias, error, and limitation. Understanding these failures isn't about losing faith in science. It's about embracing the core principles of science: skepticism, transparency, and a relentless demand for proof. Justice requires more than just evidence. It requires reliable evidence, analyzed objectively, and presented with the humility to acknowledge its limits. By confronting the failures of the past, we can build a more just and scientifically sound future, one where the line between a solvable and unsolvable case is drawn by the true limits of what we can know.